Okay, welcome back to another episode of Third and 23. I'm your host, Alex, and here we go, Saturday morning. I talked about this yesterday. I wanted to do this game, Ole Miss LSU, but I was waiting to hear the news about Trey Harris, wide receiver for Ole Miss. He's now been upgraded to probable. Beginning in the week, he was listed as questionable, and Lane Kiffin said in a press conference that if they were to play, this was on Monday, if they were to play today, he wouldn't play. I don't know how he goes from that to now he's probable and clearly very likely to play. I really wish that in college football they had the same injury stipulations and reporting that we have in the NFL. These college coaches, I get it's gamesmanship and they're trying to gain an advantage on their opponent, but for us, the gamblers, we don't like it. I definitely don't like it. But anyways, going into this game, Ole Miss LSU. Ole Miss is a 3.5 point favorite. Haven't really seen much line movement in this game. Uh, despite the fact that Trey Harris was iffy on whether or not he was going to play. So this game last season, Ole Miss won at home 55-49 and won the wildest games of 2023. Back and forth, there was no defense played in that game. And I think that the odds makers and the public are really expecting the same kind of performance this year. Ole Miss LSU to have another wild shootout. Both these teams have explosive offensive talent, right? When you're looking at this game, you see Ole Miss in their last three, they blow away Georgia Southern, right? And then they have a weird game where they lose at home 20-17 to Kentucky. And then they bounce back from that, kind of dominated South Carolina defensively. They dominated South Carolina, start to finish 127-3. That Kentucky game, in this day and age of college football with parity and you got to bring your A game every week, I don't think that was a game Ole Miss brought their A game. If you watch that game, you saw Ole Miss was low energy that whole game. There was also some officiating in that game that allowed some Kentucky drives to continue that to me were a little ticky tack, a little iffy. Reality is Kentucky probably should only had like 10 points in that game, but referees definitely extended drives with some penalties. And that's what really led to the Kentucky being to pull that off, and then Ole Miss missed a kick at the end. I don't think you're going to see that kind of low energy in this game. What we know from last year's game and Death Valley, LSU, this is a night game in LSU. I think you're going to see Ole Miss at their full potential in this game. And you're going to see the same thing with LSU. LSU, they beat South Carolina 36-33 in a game that they absolutely should have lost. A penalty on a defensive touchdown, wiped off a defensive touchdown for South Carolina that I believe shouldn't have been called. UCLA, they beat 34-17 in a game that was much, much closer than that final score indicates. And then they got right against Alabama 42-10. They were up 35-3 at the half in that game, in a get right game. So let's look at the matchup between these two teams, offense versus defense. LSU, this is going to be two of the better passing offenses in the country. LSU seventh offensively with Garrett Nussmeier. He's going to be hitting off Kyron Lacey and Aaron Anderson. Ole Miss second nationally. Jackson Dart, Heisman candidate. He's got Trey Harris to throw to, who leads the nation in receiving yardage right now. Jordan Watkins to throw to, and so forth. The biggest difference in this game for me is in terms of balance. Ole Miss has had balance this year with the running game. Henry Parrish isn't the greatest running back, but he's provided Ole Miss with some semblance of balance to balance off their passing attack. LSU, on the other hand, they're still looking for a running back. Looks like now maybe the true freshman Caden Durham they're going to lean on, but he's kind of a big play guy. But I don't know if he's a consistent bell cow running back that they need to balance off Nussmeier and Lacey. And then you add in the fact that Ole Miss currently ranks first nationally against the run. That's supposed to say rush defense. I just realized I had that wrong. But Ole Miss rush defense is number one in the country, averaging 63 yards a game, and they only allow 1.7 yards per carry. Now, in college football, sacks are part of that, but they're still pretty much brick walled up front. LSU, no running game against number one running defense in the country. Then Garrett Nussmeier and company are going to be one dimensional. And I don't like one dimensional attacks. LSU's pass defense is still weak as they were last year. Now you're going up against Trey Harris. I think Trey Harris is going to have himself a day. If he's 100%, he's probable to play. So I'm making that assumption. I think Trey Harris is going to have a day in this one. I don't think that this is going to be the wild game that it was last year. I think Ole Miss is a lot better than LSU. I think they're going to shut down LSU's running attack. I think it's going to be all on Garrett Nussmeier, and he's going to hit some plays. LSU is going to score some points, but Ole Miss is going to score a lot more points, in my opinion. I like Ole Miss, and I'm going to lay the 3.5. So anyway, that wraps it up. That's 5 games on tap for this college football weekend. If you haven't seen my other videos, I've got Pitt covering, Texas covering, Louisville covering, and Kansas State covering. So got 5 taps on tap for this weekend. Let's see if we can keep this hot streak alive as I'm 8-1 in my last 9 ATS picks. If you like the content, please like, follow, subscribe, all of that. As you're going to see my YouTube channel here in a few seconds. Take care.